Hey, everybody. Good evening. And today it's Tuesday, isn't it? It's the 22nd, 7/22. Hope you had a great day. We may have some guests coming on today, on and off, ahead of a bunch of national calls that we have going on as well. And we're going to talk all things metabolic health. And so we get into that. Let's look at what's going on, huh? Shall we look what's going on? Let's do that. So we start talking, and one of the first things we want to think about is there really an issue? So we're going to talk about what our agenda is. Let's talk about our agenda. So we're going to take a couple surveys. We're going to look at, excuse me here, I turn the light. We're going to look at what kind of struggles, real struggles, what kind of history, and we're going to look at food and other things that history. We're going to talk about solutions, and we're going to talk about proof, personal proof and social proof and scientific data. Protocol, what we've those of us that have found this and what we do to help make ourselves better, and really what the future is. So the one thing is that we want to make sure that you understand that there is hope. And when I say there's hope, what are we talking about hope for? Well, these are some of the thousands of people that have already successfully found hope with the protocol. And you start looking at these faces, you start looking at their bodies, you start looking at what you cannot see is the internal metabolic health strengths that they have. And to hear and see these stories, these transformations. I mean, I've been involved now since February, so maybe even 5 months. It is phenomenal the success that people have had. And with a 90-day money back guarantee, guys, I can tell you without reservation, it's more than valuable because it's life changing, life transformation. So, how do I know this? Well, guys, that's me, Mr. Belly So Big. Now, I used to joke and things like that. And I really did because what else are you going to do when you eat yourself into this kind of thing? And I am proof positive that this is a lifestyle dietary problem that we have. 93%, let's say almost everybody, okay, so over 90%. Maybe you don't even think it's many. I don't really care, but if you are part of the people with metabolic issues, it's just like, well, there's a 50, 90, 80% chance of rain, but if it rains where you are, it's 100% chance, right? So that's really what we're talking about. And when we're talking about it, it start looking like this. This is what this guy on the inside is going to look like, right? So there's this frame being wrapped up with all of the dietary choices and habits and lifestyle. That's really what we're talking about. And if you get like this, you see people like that, how can you possibly believe that they're truly healthy? I'm okay. Yeah, so maybe you're healthy. Yeah, I could still do different mud runs, right? I did warrior dashes, and I loved warrior dashes because never anywhere did they say run. It was a dash, and so we go from obstacle to obstacle. So, oh, by the way, it's summer, so this is my public service announcement that if you see this anywhere in your body, you need to get to the clinic immediately or certainly tomorrow because this is a classic sign of what's called Lyme disease. And Lyme disease, guys, is absolutely 100% nothing to ignore. Absolutely nothing. It creates trauma health events, complete loss of body functions and things at times, definitely mental. I mean, it erases you so bad, most people will never recover. Now, we do know a couple of people who have actually recovered from Lyme disease as a result and partial result of this protocol as well. So just want you to be aware. Now, most people don't ever see this, but if you do see it, that is no question. It's not ringworm, guys. It started and bullseye and grew, and the ring started, and they just grew before that. Now, this is about the size of a small dinner plate on my back. So just so you know, that's what Lyme disease looks like. This is me. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about metabolic issues and metabolic disease. Again, look at the cortisol face. Look how fat, big and round and pumpkiny my face was, and my torso. I think this was a 40, was it a 48 tux? At least a 48 tux that I had. I don't have that anymore. You can see Mr. Belly so big right there. Here I'm in a pool, and this is after I'm on the protocol. This is just right after I started the protocol. That's not even 90 days. So just want to let you know that how the protocol works and what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about from personal experience. And if you would like the opportunity to, I'm sure you want to feel better. If you don't feel well, you want what's best for yourself, your loved ones, and your friends, right? You want what's best. And I did too. And I ate myself into this mess. I drank myself into this mess with all the liquids I was drinking. And so one of the things that I cannot not believe is that you don't want the same. You don't want to necessarily go through life like this if you could go through life like this. This is me. This suit, by the way, this suit was bought for me by my mom in 1970. Yeah, this suit is probably older than most of you on here, but that's me putting it on and not even 90 days into the protocol. 1970 suit. Here's a quick shot. This was last year. This is this year. Look, I could be the flying squirrel in this shirt now. That's a difference, isn't it? There I am again. So this is with a 30-inch waist. This was the 28-inch waist. This is a month apart. 30-inch waist is a pretty good inch waist for a 70-year-old. Wouldn't you agree? But it's better than that waist, right? Then we're up to 34, 34 right under 36. And here we're at 28. So how did we get there? That's what we're going to talk about. And would you like to be better? Would you like to have the opportunity to feel better? Would you like the opportunity for your friends and families? Don't you want the best for them, right? I know you do. Because I don't know very many evil people that want the worst for everybody, especially their families and loved ones. So that's what we're going to talk about. But the problem is that we've kind of been misled. And I'm going to use terms like that because I just think it's true. Would you agree that there's a metabolic problem in America? I mean, better than half the people have type 2, better than half the children under 17 have type 2 or pre-diabetes. We have obesity that's off the charts. I mean, all you have to do is go outside and walk around. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? The big belly fat. Whether even if the menopausal girls, and you don't know on other people that they're suffering from PCOS and ED, that's the infertility issues. No wonder the fertility rates are down. But 20% of the women have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that's all related to the same thing. How many people do you know or yourself have high blood pressure? How many people do you know are pre or have diabetes or type 2 diabetes? How many of the people you know have migraines? Are you? How many people do you know have inflammation in the arms, elbows, the joints? How many, is that you? Maybe it's your friends, your family. Those are all signs of the same issues of a metabolic condition. And all metabolic conditions are because they're energy related, metabolism, okay, the utilization of energy in the body, which is metabolism. To metabolize is to convert into energy. And so one of those things that we talk about there is the fact these diseases all come from the same origin. Now they present themselves as various signs, symptoms, many of which are masked by prescriptions with drugs or some kind of pharmaceutical shot or pill, whatever. So they mask the symptom, but it doesn't eliminate the cause. It doesn't reduce the cause. It just masks the symptoms. And so let me ask you this: would you want to go through life continually painting the same stain on the wall, and it really never goes away? Or would you rather sand it down, do the primer, and then paint over it, and it's done? Would you rather have it that way, or you just want to keep painting and painting and painting and painting and painting? And that's really kind of what we're talking about. The paint is the pills, the tablets, the drinks, the shots that you're taking to mask the symptoms. That's really what we're talking about. Now, would you agree that over the next 5 to 10 years that those are going to get worse? Absolutely. And so one of the things that we're talking about here, guys, and one of the things we want to look at and deal with is the fact that illiteracy in 2025 isn't the inability to read. Illiteracy in America is not the inability to read. Almost everybody has a cell phone, right, or access to that, and computers and things. So, but everybody can read. But what illiteracy now is in 2025 is the inability to, or the refusal to unlearn something that you learned, to relearn what is correct. So we have been manipulated, and you may not like that word, and you say, well, I haven't been manipulated. Yeah, you have. And I'll prove that to you and talk to you about that later. But the idea is that we have been manipulated. We have been fed lines that are stuck with us. Subliminally, you know the jingles. You know subliminally all the kinds of things they teach you and feed you. And especially when it comes to what we ingest. What we ingest. We're going to talk about that. And so the final question would be, would you agree that most Americans spend $6 to $10 a day on breakfast sandwiches, breakfast meals, going to the drive-in for whatever they may have, bagels or donuts or muffins or smoothies or whatever they have for quote breakfast, sodas during the day, smoothies, chips, candy, power drinks, snacks? Would you agree that people spend $6 to $10 a day? And I'm not even talking about the weekend. Good Lord, weekends are what? Weekends are made for snacking, right? However, there's no such thing as a healthy snack. Okay? We weren't designed to eat 6 and 7 times a day. We weren't built that way. Our systems were not engineered. Our systems were not created by the Creator to be constantly feeding itself. No, we weren't born that way. Historically, we didn't eat that way. But we have in our modern food environment. Why? Because we are addicted to food. If you don't believe we're addicted to food, go ahead and look on another platform. I have a video with 16 questions, 16 question questionnaire that talks about addiction of food. Take that 16-point questionnaire and get back to me when you find the answer that you are addicted, and we can talk about that. So we've been, people don't like the word brainwashed, but we have since we were children. I mean, think about it. When we were kids on Saturday mornings, now, I don't even know if they do that anymore because networks and cable and all that stuff are a whole nother world. But back in the day, every Saturday was cartoon day, cartoon morning, right? You remember that? Exactly. So cartoons were on. And what were cartoons brought to you by? Well, they're brought to you by breakfast cereals, right? Tony and Toucan and Tiger and the Snap Crackle and Bear and gosh, I can't even remember all of them, but you know what I'm talking about, right? And so they were all brought by these characters that got you to what? Want those, desire those, see those colors as exciting, as joyful, as something that you would almost Pavilion salivate for. You saw those, you start to salivate, okay? You didn't want just the toy or the cards on the back. Your mind wanted the flavor that came through that tongue. And so when you went to the store tell me if I'm right or wrong. When you go to the store, what level are all of those kids' cereals at? Are they up high? Or are they down here, right where you can see them when you're in the cart and walking along with mom or dad or grandma, whoever you went shopping with? They were right there. And I want till you got it, right? And you got it. They gave it to you. Okay? And so you wanted it, not because of what was in it, you wanted it because how it looked, because you'd seen it so many times that it became desirous. How many of those jingles do you know? They're good, right? Easy. Snap, crackle, right? It's easy peasy things like that. Captain. Those things are so inbred in your mind. You may not have bought a box in 2 or 3 decades, but you still remember them, don't you? Then about an hour or so before Cartoon Morning was over, came the Westerns. The Westerns, and then the airplanes and the sheriffs and those kinds of more modern day, not cartoons, but now more modern day stories, Westerns and law enforcement stories. And those are all before what? Before American Bandstand and Soul Train. So there's a tier of marketing geared at the ages on that one morning, designed to get you ready to go to the store when there was shopping to be done to get the foods. It's no different today. Bum, 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 bum. Bet you can't eat just I Garon. Where's the 2 all beef patties special? Right? Think about it. Those things just don't go away. And those all stem mentally way back to the tobacco industry. Way back to the tobacco industry, because the tobacco industry, we'll talk about them in a minute. So would you agree? Yeah, most people agree that people spend $6 to $10 a day on snacks and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't include the weekend, which now we go crazy on the weekend, don't we? If you don't think I'm telling you the truth, which is fine, go to a softball field, and now they're like conglomerates, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fields, or the soccer fields, volleyball fields. Go look at everybody that shows up has what? A cooler and a bag full of what? Drinks made with colors in them, right? There's green, teal, orange, whatever. Go look at those labels, and then look what kinds of snacks there are. There's things that look like, supposedly they're crackers, and some look like fish, and some are round, and some are whatever. And there's all kinds of chips and curls and bars and Nola bars and whatever else. Start looking at that and ask, why are they there? What influenced those buying? And are we buying those habitually? And have we been sold those, and now we're habitualizing them? And the reason some people don't know how much they spend on a daily basis is because they use plastic. If you had to pull out cash out of your billfold and count it out, you would know. Okay? So let's continue on. So yeah, 93% of adults are metabolically unhealthy. You don't think that's true? That's fine. I don't care. Take a number, but it's going to be over 50. There's 1 out of 5. If you were just at a 4th of July event or a family reunion, a class reunion, or gone to the park or whatever, and you start looking around, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And we are the most medicated country in the world, but yet we're dying of metabolic diseases. We're dying of incidences because of our choices. And these choices, those include heart disease. The second or third leading cause of death is medical. And nobody wants to talk about that. But you have Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is diabetes type 3. And we're finding more and more things about it. And diabetes, heart disease, strokes, all of these things, guys, can be interrupted. We can intervene with lifestyle choices. We can fix a lot of this if we just do a couple things. I'm going to give you some free advice on how you can do that as well. But they are preventable. Kidney disease, hypertension, heart, guys, diabetes. These aren't things that are just, well, you weren't born with them. In most cases, there's not genetic. Find me the gene that makes you diabetic. If you're diabetic and your grandma was diabetic and your dad was diabetic, everybody was diabetic, that doesn't mean that if you're not diabetic yet, that doesn't mean you're going to be. It depends on your lifestyle changes and things. But if everybody that lived in the same house got diabetes, for example, or became diabetic, guess what? You all eat the same food. You had the same habits. It wasn't your genetic pool, as a rule. So this is what we're talking about. It's one of the things we want to deal with. So what is insulin resistance? So if I say insulin, most people, the first thing they want to do is jump over the ship and say, oh, I'm not diabetic, so I can't have insulin resistance. Yeah, you can. Insulin resistance is how hard it is for insulin to do its job. Insulin's job is to transport in the system and get glucose, your energy, into the cells. And predominantly the first cell that they're going to work to is your muscle cells. So insulin's job is to get the glucose into the cell so it can be used and burned in the mitochondria and all kinds of, we're not going to go with that deep dive. But eventually they're full. And think about this. If it takes 2, 3, maybe 4 hours for insulin to clear what you put in it. Now, how often are you eating? Every 2? Every 3? If you're eating 2, 3, you're never letting the insulin relax. It goes up to start pushing it down, and it's going down. Yay. And then you go ahead and eat some more. You drink some more. And what does insulin have to do? Go up above it to try to push it in. And it's down, coming down, and then you eat again or drink something again. Everything you put in your mouth, other than just plain water, as a rule, is going to cause what? An increase in the glucose, thus an increase in insulin. So the pancreas has to do its job. The organ that does it is the pancreas. Okay? So if you never let your insulin rest, and if it constantly needs more because you keep throwing more glucose in, you're going to have more and more insulin. No wonder you feel crappy when you go to the doc and he says, well, you're fine, because they measure your glucose level. They measure your glucose level, not your insulin level. Think about that. So if they measured your insulin level, you would learn a whole lot, but they don't do it. Until what? Until your blood sugar is so high that insulin can't do its job anymore, and you're now labeled type 2 diabetic, and then you're going to get some kind of pill or some kind of shots to try to bring it down, but they aren't fixing what you're putting in your mouth. And you're not fixing what you're putting in your mouth. And what do they tell you for advice to do? They tell you to what? Well, you need to move more and eat less. Well, that doesn't work within a heck of a Hilton basket. They don't tell you, then a lot of times, how many of you have heard you need to eat like 5-6 times a day to keep your metabolism up? What poppycock? That is uneducated. And that's just silly. It's 100% ineffective doing that. You're never going to lose weight. You're never going to take your shape different. Eating that many times a day, you never let your insulin and your pancreas relax. Except for when? except for when you're sleeping. Now, if you're sleeping, good. At least now the insulin gets to take 4-6 hours to finally get all the other stuff cleared out, as long as it has a place for it to go. Because muscles will take 80%. Muscles use 80% of normal glucose. Okay? But then they say we're full. We're full. We are not going to take anymore. The cells go, no, the receptors shut down. So then they wander around till they find another place in the inn, in the village, and that is with the liver. Well, the liver can only do so much. The liver can only take so much. So now where's it going to go? Now it's going to go to the fat cells. It's going to go lap around the organs. Have you heard of non-alcoholic fatty liver? Some people now are using the term MASH as well, still talking about the same condition and the same root cause. And if you don't think that your conditions, whatever they happen to be, maybe look at fatty liver, high cholesterol, obesity, arteriosclerosis, hypertension, coronary artery disease, cancer, gestational diabetes, type 2, prediabetes, 1.5 diabetes, that's insulin sort of. Type 1 diabetes, that's totally insulin. 1.5 is a combination. Erectile dysfunction, retinopathy, eyes, kidney failure, blindness, neuropathy, Alzheimer's, PCOS. Guys, those and more are all related to the one thing, which is insulin resistance. So I ask you again, if you know anybody that has any of these issues, and I know you do. I know you probably could think of 10. Pretty much easy, because they were all at your last family reunion, and a lot of them were complaining about fatigue and brain fog, right? Sleep apnea. He snores all night long. Peeing all the time. Hair's falling out. Brain fog. Vision. Cloudy vision. Blurry vision, right? Skin tags. Black, dark patches on the neck, under the arms, even on the forehead. I was on a plane the other day. I felt so bad for this guy. I wanted to tell him about it. You know, how do you go up to someone and say, hey, you've got this? But at the top of his forehead was black and scaly. Psoriasis, eczema. Those are all issues related to insulin resistance. If you don't believe me, go ask your favorite ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini 2.4, I don't care what version you use. Go ask them if what your conditions are could be potentially related to insulin resistance. Then you will be shocked and amazed and come back and tell me. So what are the symptoms? Well, back acne. I forgot to even say that one. I had that one. Some people may get, they eat and they crash because they had such a big spike. They may actually get hypoglycemia. That's not one of that happens, but most of you don't get there because you eat so dang often. Loss of hair, I had that. Cravings, oh my goodness gracious. Cravings for sweets, cravings for salt. I look like Mr. Belly so big, like I showed you. I don't have PCOS, that'd be a whole nother agenda. That would be another conversation. But decreased testosterone and muscle tone, yep, got it. Gout, I've had gout. High blood sugar, I can tell you that. Triglycerides, bodily fat, skin. This was me, I had all of them. Signs of insulin resistance, you go to the bathroom often. Tingling of the feet, neuropathy, we talked about that. Increased hunger. You can't stop eating. You think about food all the time. So one of the things, who doesn't, let me put it this way. Would you like to have good health past the time you die, or do you want to go a couple, 5-10 years of really bad health and then die? Right. Most of us absolutely want to what? We want to go to the end of our days as healthy as we could be. We want to be the person over here, not the person over there. So we want you to have more health at the end of your lifetime. Like it's like having money at the end of the month. We don't want you to go away broke. We want you to go healthy. All right. So why are we in this condition? What has happened? Well, it all starts years ago. Now, truth be known, I'm 73. I'm a grandpa at 15. Here, the whole idea. My goal, I want to be a great grandpa. I'm going to be the first Villia male to have 5 generations. That's what my goal is. And I all but crashed that goal. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the idea is that the food industry was hijacked by the tobacco industry. Originally, the tobacco industry, and we all know the tobacco industry and that kind of thing. And one of the things that they found from research that was done at a university was that rats, when exposed to a street drug and then exposed to sugar, chose sugar because it was more addictive than the street drug. And with that, the tobacco companies, then the tobacco industry, began to aspirate sugar into tobacco leaves. And up to about 20% of tobacco by weight was sugar because it's that addictive. Now, that's one thing that happened. And I want you to think about what the tobacco industry learned about sugar, because that's going to be important in a minute. Then what happened is that they started removing fiber. Now, when you remove fiber, that increases the shelf life, but it doesn't increase your life. Things were done for economic reasons, not for healthcare reasons. Does that make sense? Do you follow that? Does that resonate with anybody? And then the whole thing of hydrolyzation of oil. Now, hydrolyzation of oil came out. There was a process that was created, I think it was in Germany, hydrolyzation. It might have been in the US, whatever. But what it does is that if you take and press hydrogen into an oil, you can make a solid. Think of, in your house, you probably have peanut butter. Look at that, and peanut butter. If you have peanut butter, it's hydrolyzed, right? Now, if it's natural peanut butter, it probably is not. It's just peanut butter or peanuts and salt. But if you have hydrolyzed, and all of a sudden you also have oil in there too, and some sugar, and other things that make it highly palpable, so that it becomes addictive, so you want more. So the first hydrolyzed oil was cottonseed oil. Now, cottonseed oil is a toxic byproduct from the processing of cotton. Now, the seeds ground produced oil, and it was highly toxic. It was considered toxic. So it was used for what? Industrial lubricants and also fuel for lamps. Well, 2 guys, one named Procter and one named Gamble, met in Cincinnati. Now, one was a candlestick maker and one was a soap manufacturer. And they both had come from England, Scotland, and Ireland area. They met in Cincinnati because they married sisters. And they became partners, Procter and Gamble. Now, beans, their products were made out of, really originally were mostly animal-based, and that was becoming more of a rarity, and they were looking for something less expensive, and hydrolyzation, a process had been invented, and there was ample cottonseed oil. Well, let's combine the two, and they created a solidified oil. Now, that was a crystallized cottonseed oil. You shorten that down, and you have what's called Crisco. Now, Crisco, to be marketed, the idea was that, well, now we have an oil, and what could they do with it? Well, you could cook with it. You could be for cooking. Well, to get it have some value on the store shelves, they had to demonize what was being used at the time, and what was being used at the time was what? Lard, ghee, butter, animal fats. So we demonized those. Fat makes you fat. And then they took the Crisco and they needed an endorsement. So $1.7 million later, out of the Heart Association comes, it's heart healthy. It's heart healthy. And then their slogan became, it's digestible. It's digestible. What does that tell you? It tells you nothing. That means it's a go-through gluten slider is what it is. So then after that popularization, then we start going with all these other rapeseed oil, which is incredibly irritating to the body, gets processed and things into canola oil. And then you got all the other oils, vegetable oil. What is vegetable oil? There's no vegetable in vegetable, but it sounds natural, doesn't it? We use and even they go natural flavors. What the heck is a natural flavor? It's chemicals. They can't even define it. It's just a catch-all. And the FDA and what does the Food and Drug Administration have? Why are they together? And who's in charge? Anyway, I get that. I'm sorry. So anyway, so that's the seed oil issues. And then there is this guy named Kellogg, and he was a doctor and a minister, and he had ownership in this crazy company called for cereals. And we need to create a slogan. We need to create something that will make people eat more cereal. And it's what? The most important meal of the day is what? Breakfast. That became a slogan. Breaking your fast is a big deal, but breakfast does not need to be defined by a bowl of cornflakes and orange juice and a banana. And that's really what the marketing became. So it became cornflakes. And then they saw a good thing if we put bananas. Well, bananas are another thing that's going to spike your blood sugar, right? But they put coupons for bananas in the boxes to promote that. So now you've got bananas and cereal. Seems like a natural thing then, right? And then Dole wanted to get involved. So they said, hey, here's some orange juice. Now you've got juice. Is there any pulp? No, it's just sugar water. So now what has happened with just that one little meal with your body? You came out, you're doing so well, you were sleeping, and your insulin was low, and you're starting to use your ketones, which are produced by glycolysis out of your liver, and you're eating your love handles in essence, so you're doing great. Now you're really doing well in this fasted state, and then you toss that breakfast on it, your breakfast, that muffin, that breakfast sandwich, that chicken sandwich, that whatever, pancakes and waffles and French toast and all the other things, the skillet, and you get mad because it's a small skillet, you want the large one, right? All of those things. Chicken biscuits, chicken waffles, whatever. So that's all of that in breakfast. And all these things are then supported by what? By media. Media will do anything. So we already talked about that. So we engineered things to be highly palpable. And when this happened was because the tobacco industry, did you know the tobacco industry bought the food industry? Most of your food companies were once owned by the tobacco companies. Now, when they did that, what do you think they brought with them? They brought the scientists. They brought their knowledge of taking products and making them addictive. So they made these foods, they engineered them to be highly palpable. They're processed, they're ultra processed, they're highly processed, and they've taken out the starch or the fiber, so they put in starches. There's 260, 230 names for sugar, and most of them don't taste sweet. And they're in there simply to create an addiction. They're in there to simply bypass your brain centers. And that's sugar in all kinds of forms, fatty omega-6s, which is seed oils, salt, and the starches. And then they're also in your sugary drinks. All those sugary drinks that you're feeding kids at sporting events and that kind of stuff, there you go. Now, in the 70s, along comes high fructose corn syrup. Is that natural? No. Were these seed oils natural? No. They're highly processed, even with fuel additives and things like that. And then tobacco, after doing its deal, sold out. And now we have high fructose corn syrup. Foods are already highly addictive because they're super palatable. And then it comes in big pharmacy and big agriculture. That's where we're at today. So I've lived 2 generations of food, if you will. In my early years, my first 30 years, we had beef. We didn't have to have grass-fed beef, grass-finished beef. We just had beef. We had eggs. We didn't have pasture eggs and pen-raised eggs or whatever the heck it is. We had eggs, and they were out running around the yard. We had whole milk, and you could get fresh whole milk and that type of thing. Nobody had a nut allergy. Nobody had gluten allergies and all these other allergies you have. Those are all related. Wheat allergies and those things are all related to the hybridization of the wheat plants, which has happened over decades. And the GMOs, right? The genetically modified things like corn and stuff, those are going on. And then they bioengineer our foods on top of that. So that's the things that you're up against, guys. That's the things that you're up against. So here's your food conglomerates. There's the story of breakfast. And who's waiting for you? These guys. And some of these pharmaceutical guys, biotech guys, that's agricultural. So they're all working together. And you think that when the guys get together at the board meetings for the cereals and the foods and stuff, you think they're thinking, how can we got to make this the most nutritious food in the world? Or are they thinking, how can we make it the most addictive and profitable for us? Just asking for a friend. So this is where I just wanted just my little George Carlin humor. I think that feeder cattle, oh, yeah, there you go. Here's corn. Now this is actually cat food. Here's steamed cornflakes, and that's fed to cattle. Now there's flakes, and those are flakes. It's all corn. Not a lot of difference between these animals and these. I just rest my case. Highly addictive, highly palpable. So we have gone into some big issues. Look at the carbohydrates and the special deals. Look how you are constantly bombarded and surrounded by this. And so this was what happens. So have anybody felt like they're in a diet yo-yo dieter? Well, I call the game diet whack-a-mole. I call it diet whack-a-mole because there's everything going on under the sun and the new trend and the new trend, the new trend, the new trend. And right now, people are getting shots, taking pills, trying to lose weight, and some are successful. The challenge is that 40% of what they lose in weight is actually muscle. And you need, what did I say? 80% of the glucose gets stored in the muscle. If you're losing muscle and you stop these things, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? When you stop it, you have less muscle. You think it's going to, and you haven't changed your lifestyle. Do you think that you're going to keep that weight off, or do you think it's going to come back faster because you don't have as many spots for it? Exactly. So why you fail? This is why you fail, guys, is because you think in the short term. Now, when I say you think in the short term, I'm looking like New Year's resolution, right? How many of you made a New Year's resolution, and how many days did that last? You really weren't committed. You thought you were committed. I'm going to do this. That's a flash and you fail. Or then you do the really destructive thing. You go all or nothing. I'm going to go all this and none of that. As quick as you do that denial, you got a little chip on your shoulder that keeps going, come on, you want it, come on, take it, come on. And you may go for a while, but you take that one little nibble, that one little thing, that olfactory sense goes in there and your brain says, come on. And then you have shame and guilt. It ruins your mentality. So then you think you can do it on your own. And you could maybe, but just don't tell anybody, because as quick as you tell somebody, they start to tease you, ridicule you. Like, Why are you too good to be like us? And so then you're all by yourself and you're alone. And we are communal animals. Being alone is not a good thing. And then you go, I'm going to exercise. I want to exercise. I'm going to the treadmill. I'm going to an hour and a half every day. And we're like, guys, you can't out exercise a poor diet. And most people never consider sleep and stress. So those are things that are really things why hungry always wins and you always fail. So I've gone through things about insulin resistance. It's really, those are all symptoms and signs. You need to get to the root cause. And the root cause of insulin resistance is we need to get rid of that. So these are things. If you're always hungry, difficult to lose weight, cravings, headaches, migraines, they've known for decades that migraines are a result of insulin resistance. They've known for decades. But how do they treat it? All kinds of pills that make you sicker. Low energy, fatigue, hard belly fat, those are all signs of insulin resistance. Just some of them. So the free advice, guys, I say I always give people free advice. Fast a little bit longer. When you get up, and fast a little bit longer. My free advice is F off. Fast the order of food, which is fiber, fat, and protein. That's my free advice. Do this order, fast, order of food, fiber, fat, and protein. That will set you on your way. But if you need a little aid, a little help, then you go the protocol, and you sip a drink during the morning that helps let you fast longer. Well, you know that fasting longer helps. That's not even arguable anymore. There's enough studies and proof on that, and I'm not going to say how long you fast, intermittent fast, time restricted fast. I mean, there's 1,000 different names for it. But just, you don't eat the first thing you do when you get up. You're going to break your fast sometime. And what this does is that it allows you to break it later. And then when you have your meal, or if you have 2 meals, you take fiber first. That's what I said, right? Well, I supplement my fiber. And then to have another afternoon, use that same thing that gets you to the morning, drink that again in the afternoon to get you through to dinner, and then have that. So you're not snacking. There's no snacking. So look, you're saving money right there. No snacks, saving money. Pushing breakfast till towards noon, you're saving money. And you're feeling better. I rest my case. Our protocol has been studied. We have lab results. You could look it up in the physician's desk, our digital reference online. The Cleveland Clinic said that the product that we do have taken regularly would reduce cardiovascular risk in a population basis and decrease the need and dose for lipid-lowering drugs. Who doesn't want you to know that? And people have given you all the drugs for your blood pressure, right, and for your heart. They don't want you to know this, but we're in here. We are nutraceuticals, not pharmaceuticals. We are plant-based. All the prescriptions you take, all those medications you take are petroleum-based. What we offer you is something that is natural. Food. Okay? And that's what I just showed you. This is a real quick showing you that our protocol will help lower your glucose response by up to 43%. Metformin, if you're on it, maybe 30 on a good day. This will also help increase your GLP-1 by 60% naturally. See, your body naturally produces GLP-1. It naturally produces GLP-1. If you want to brace yourself and make it better, do it naturally. Save yourself hundreds or thousands of dollars. Do it naturally. Or don't. But we are in the PDR. And that means, oh, by the way, no negative side effects, no negative interactions. Look your products up first. Look at what you're taking. Look at what you're taking. I double dog dare you to do that. And then come to me and criticize me. Because you'll find ours are in there too, but they have no side effects and they have no negative interactions. So this shows you why I say you want to go fats and proteins. Carbohydrates are not a food group. They're a combination of toxicity. So why our solution works? We have patents. We have clinical studies. It's safe, guaranteed. Oh, guaranteed? Yeah, we're guaranteed that it's effective. If you follow our instructions and use it correctly for 90 days, we guarantee you will see results, and those are provable in your blood work. Period. In the story. It's cost neutral and we're available worldwide. Now we're about 63 countries. So we are a nutraceutical versus a pharmaceutical. Could you try to do what we do? Yeah. These are the things you'll need to try to look at. Good luck at figuring it and finding it and the quality and the testing and stuff. Our products, we own everything front to back, start to finish. Our products are NSF certified. We are Canadian certified. So you guys in Canada, Montreal, British Columbia, look, we're available for you. We have a history. It goes back to 1991. Is that long enough? So we've been around. We are proven. We are patented. We have laboratory results. And we kind of have results that look like this. That's me. My blood glucose was clinically bad. And in 107 days, I'm natural. I'm on no prescriptions. I'm on no scripts at all. My friend John, friend Andrea, Kenny, Honesty, Jimmy. Guys, if you'd like to know more on how this works, just message me. I love you. I'll be back later tonight again. I've got to go on. I've got 2 national calls to go on now. So I appreciate you coming and visiting. I wish you well. I'll be back again tonight.